All right, do we have audio? All right, we have audio. Okay. All right, all sorts of technical problems here, but thanks for joining us today. Looks like we are good. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay and coming through. All right, so just released the St. Thomas video, lesson video, so hopefully you got a chance to see that one. Really a nice tune, kind of nice little simple melody. So it was a fun one to put together. I had a pretty busy weekend this past weekend, so so that was just kind of a quick little arrangement. We did a combination of melody and chord melody and harmonic pairs. So hopefully you had a chance to see that. I'm not sure if I'm going to have backing tracks today because I just didn't get on in time to really check that out, but maybe I'll do a little playing to start us out. So a few things that I'm working to incorporate into these lessons and YouTube videos, as well as on my website, fretprince.com, is to focus on really kind of like traditional music understanding. And if you take a tune like this one in the key of C, and you try to maybe simply play only with notes in the key of C, you may find some stumbling blocks along the way through just different twists and turns that it might take. But you might find that, 5 of the 7 notes, or even 6 of the 7 notes from the diatonic C major scale will really work effectively over the course of the progression. But it's going to step outside a little bit here and there. And so for one example, if we went from C to F7 on the solo sections, or F9, we might find that, okay, the E natural all of a sudden wants to maybe move down a half step. So, right, so you can adapt your original C major scale to accommodate certain chords. So in that example, if you take all the notes in the key of C and lower the third, we end up with the C melodic minor, right? So we're just shifting that one note over a little bit if that chord is included in the progression. Now, if we go from E minor to A7. Then we might push the C up a half step. So simple as that. Right, so we can take that that original tonal center, just start adjusting the notes a little bit, and that's a real helpful perspective to have on it. Just kind of work with the current of the harmony, kind of, so to speak. So. Right. So I have certain scales in music that are, you almost might think of them as problem solver type scales, like melodic minor. So unless you're, playing a tonal tune that's maybe working, or excuse me, a modal tune that is, working with one of the modes of melodic minor. Unless you're doing that, oftentimes we're working in a tonal tune, and so melodic minor becomes something that we can use as a tool, to make some adjustments to the notes, and all of a sudden you have a mode of the melodic minor that's helping to accommodate that chord. So it's a perspective I hope you explore a little bit if you haven't already. So those two particular ones will help you out quite a bit. So that would be the D melodic minor there for a moment, and that can work on both the E minor 7 and the A7. Right, so almost like beads on a string. We have these notes across like one single string. Shift over a little bit. So let's check out how that might sound a little bit. So we have right. So that helps us to suggest or outline the harmony a little bit as we play melodically. So if you can melodically suggest what the harmony is doing, then you're gonna flow with the tune, flow with the form. All right, folks. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday here. I kind of barely made it, so I apologize for the late start, and hopefully I'm not too frantic starting out here. But let me know if you have any questions, or please just say a quick hello. Love to hear from you, chat with you a little bit. Kind of a nice opportunity to get to know folks who visit the channel with some regularity. And have a little tea. This is pretty hot, though. Actually, it's pretty good. All right. So we're gonna go through the changes to this tune. I am kind of tempted to pull up my backing track on it, maybe jam a little bit later, but I really didn't test it, so I probably shouldn't necessarily do that. But this was a fun recording to put together, a fun arrangement, maybe in both senses. I kind of like the melody as single notes on certain parts of it, so I left them as single tones. Right, so body, so that was kind of cool. And then I thought, well, I'll place in some chord melody a little bit later in the arrangement. To harmonize a little bit on it. And then I went to the in the ending section. I went into some harmonic pairs, which I also thought was kind of fitting. I did a arrangement on Mele Kalikimaka, so kind of harken back to that whole thing there. Okay. Okay, so what else do we have in the harmony in this? There's actually kind of a lot packed into this really short form. What do we have? 16 bars or something like that. So a little later on in the tune, we have this E minor 7 flat 5 going to A7, and you might associate this with a flat 9. So in a sense, it's almost like a slightly different minor flavor than what we had earlier with the E minor 7 to the A7, where we have a natural fifth, or a B natural. Here we have the B flat, right? So the D harmonic minor in this case might be a little bit of a better fit. Hey, Sobran. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. So that is going to accommodate, the chords. So that's a good note collection to consider on this part. And it's kind of just a different flavor, but an important one, because the minor 7 flat 5 is, at a really kind of a different sound than the E minor 7. So that can help you work with that change and kind of get that flavor going. But that's not to say that you can't play other scales. You could always use alter scale on the dominant 7, so in particular. So there's really quite a lot that you can stretch out on when it comes to the dominant 7th chords. And of course you can work at these little motions too, so you can have, a little half step A flat to G7 motion on that. So it's important to consider the circle of fifths and understand the concept of neighboring keys and maybe some borrowed chords and all of that. So if we have key of C and we're right at the top of the circle of fifths there with the key of C, go one counterclockwise, and we get into the key of 1 flat. And if we're working on that D minor, 5 of the 2, then we know that, well, in minor, sometimes we might use melodic minor, sometimes we might use harmonic minor, and oftentimes applied to the 5 chord on that particular change, so that, or the 2 and the 5. So later on in the tune, we have this moment where we have C, let's say C major 7, or let's say C6. And then we have C7. Now we could put C7 over E, and that gives us the bass motion here, the bass movement. So let's say C6 up to, we could even do E minor 7 flat 5, or we could think of this as C9 over E, and then that bumps us up to F major, right? So what happens there? Well, we get that B flat working in again, right? So, and that can arrive from the key of 1 flat again. So just looking at the, I'm not sure which direction I need to go with my hand, but check out the circle fifths and look counterclockwise 1 at the key of 1 flat. So we borrowed from the 5 of the relative minor from the key of 1 flat, and now we're borrowing from the 5 of the relative major at the key of 1 flat, which is a closely related key, just over by 1. All right, Jonathan, thanks for dropping in, and appreciate your song request, but not necessarily doing tune requests right now, unless you want to talk about improvisation on the on a particular tune. I'd be glad to talk about it and see what I can come up with. But yeah, this is kind of mainly a improvisation type live stream. Okay. Now later on in this progression, we end up with F, right? F major, and then we have F sharp, diminished 7. Now, one thing that you can do with diminished 7ths is try to relate them a little to dominant 7th type chords, or even dominant 7ths with flat 9s. So if we took an F sharp diminished 7 arpeggio, let's say, and attached a D down below it, we can relate this to the D7 flat 9. So the D7 is a 5 chord in the key of 1 sharp. Key of 1 sharp is 1 sharp, F sharp. So we can borrow from that key center and maybe take the perspective of having an E flat rather than an E, and we can stay consistent with this idea of just sort of fluctuating, changing note collections, but really a lot of the notes remaining quite a bit the same, but just adjusting through either some of those chord scales we talked about earlier, or just closely related keys. So the key of 1 sharp is clockwise on the circle of fifths, right? So we can think, oh, maybe we're taking a 5 of the 5, but putting the 5 over the F sharp. All right, and we might consider this to be the G harmonic major as a parent scale applied to the dominant. So I'm going to apply the, do some single line improv over this. Sorry guys, but I did not get my backing tracks set up in time today. I typically have to do a little bit of working on levels and stuff and making sure it's balanced. So I'm doing like kind of single lines today. But perhaps helping folks move through the changes a little bit. And actually did a real detailed talk on this a couple days ago on our member live stream on fretprints.com. So if you want to check that out, you can always sign up for a free trial there and check out that talk. All right, so what are we doing here? We've got, let's say, this sequence of chords here towards the end. We have the C, and then I'm going to use that B flat. Okay, we got the F major, and then the F sharp diminished, and then we can do a kind of 1-5-1 in the key of C. Okay. All right. So, offering perspectives on some of this. So we have, I think, kind of a tendency, maybe on the internet or just maybe in general, of maybe getting out in front of some of these fundamentals. I'm not sure if cart before the horse is a good figure of speech for this or not, but I do believe that that's kind of what happens a little bit in maybe the jazz guitar education space, or maybe all jazz. I'm not sure, but taking the perspective of musicianship, whether we're talking about Wes Montgomery or Barney Kessel or Pat Metheny, there's like a certain language that's shared, whether you're even in other genres where we have some perspective on just fundamental type things that occur in music. So one thing I'd really recommend for folks when it comes to playing jazz tunes or really any tune is to really try to make sure the circle of fifths is pretty well understood, and that you can go into one of those key areas like the key of C, like we're talking about, and understand what's the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, and the 7, and which chord qualities those are. And then when you're going through a tune, you say, well, yeah, that root note's in there, but the chord quality is different than just the diatonic notes in that tune. So for example, we're talking about St. Thomas, right? So if we have an E minor 7 flat 5 in the tune to an A7, we might say, well, we have E root note, but how is this different, right? So in the key of C, we have E minor, and then we have the slight difference. So how is it different? How is it the same? Well, it's got the same third, it's got the same 7, it's got the same root, but the flat 5 is different, right? Similarly, if we have the A7, might take the perspective, okay, well, the root note is in the key, but in the key of C, we have just A minor 7. So really 3 out of the 4 notes are the same, but we have the C sharp in there. So taking some of those things that I think we all work on, and really just applying some pretty simple really basic music theory to our tunes and things, you'll actually come up with a lot of the things that are talked about on the internet, like enclosures, chromatic passing tones, all these types of things are things that really occur pretty naturally as you move through a progression and create lines and just accommodate some of those closely related keys, secondary dominants, and these types of things. All right, so let's see if we can maybe create some melody out of this. So I would encourage you to try doing some of that, just creating some maybe simple melodic lines, and be able to try to weave through the changes and think, well, did this work or did this not work, or anything like that. So and then once we're getting to know some of these changes, like I said, with the current of the tune, and understanding the key center, and okay, adjust the C to a C sharp here, or adjust the B to a B flat here, or maybe do both, or maybe have an F sharp and an E flat and keep the other notes the same. Once we can kind of work with that, then we can really take efforts to get very specific and understand each note, not only how it relates to the tonality and the key, but also really moment by moment relationships to the chords. So I would recommend, kind of before that whole chord by chord thing, just get to understand the flow and almost just like subtle movements that are shifting in a lot of tonal tunes. So there are some of those tonal tunes that are definitely pretty difficult. Have You Met Miss Jones? That's the bridge to that is basically a precursor to Giant Steps. So that part of that tonal tune is tough to play. It's difficult, and it moves you around. But really, a lot of tunes tend to work in much more subtle, predictable, and repeated patterns that come up again and again and again. So studying a lot of tunes, studying a lot of progressions, transcribing chord progressions to tunes, even just try to get one section if it's a lot for you at first, but take a fairly simple tune and try to see if you can figure out the chord progression by ear, maybe find the bass note first, find the chord quality of the chord at a given moment, get a sense for the key. There's all sorts of things. Maybe just zooming out a little bit, listen to the end of the form and see what note does the melody player end up going to. Oftentimes that's going to be the tonic note. So kind of listening, searching for clues, and really understanding the nature of music, and then kind of the magic of playing. You'll say, you might say, oh, that's that, like I mentioned earlier, that's the enclosure, that's that thing, that's so cool, or that's the chromatic passing tone, which just happened, to fall under my fingers, for example, and that often reveals itself, rather than intending first to do, like a chromatic enclosure or something like that. So a few, perspectives that I want to offer here, and some inspiration, because really, music is pretty hard, but in some sense it's kind of easy too. I mean, you can kind of get in the flow of what you're doing, and so in one sense you can just make observations about notes, right? And when you're playing with iReal Pro or whatever, oh, that note fits, that, so in that sense it's kind of simple, kind of easy. But as progressions get more, challenging, depending on the tune, it can be really, really challenging. So so kind of play, from your, experience, I would recommend, but get to know a little bit of just really well-established harmony, stuff like that. So we'll do a little more playing, probably hang out for another 5 minutes or so. And next week I should be back with more of the backing tracks. I gave a recital yesterday, and so my studio is a little torn up, and I'm a little tired. Not too bad though. And I was busy putting cables back together, and doing some family things before this. So hopefully I'm not ranting or anything, but hopefully you find some of my talk a little bit helpful and maybe inspiring. I'll do a little more playing, and then I'll talk a little bit about some things I have planned for next year that I think are going to be pretty exciting and fun. So we're playing here. All right, folks. So, starting early this next year, 2026, I plan to start a series on on just strictly improvisation. So kind of my brainstorming ideas are to have a little playing, in the context of a backing track, maybe from a recent tune, a little improvisation, and then a little short talk on some ideas for really practical ideas for playing over some changes to a tune, and then a big feature that I'm most excited about, I think, is to get some questions and offer my perspectives on playing and stuff. So, now I'm getting into the middle age here, and so I've been playing for quite a while. Played on quite a few stages. Played in different contexts. Seven-piece groups, 20-piece groups, down to duos and trios, and so been doing it and studying it, both really kind of on the bandstand and off, and getting guidance from some really great players over the years. Walter Namath, Joe Cohn, and Butch Warren, and Steve Novosel, Jay Cummings, and others, and so I hope to offer folks, just kind of the maybe the realities of how I've come to understand how some of the really great players approach music from my understanding, and how I think they've encouraged me to think about it. So, I'm really, fairly convinced that focusing on music fundamentals and the realities of just keeping at it day after day, and working at refining your own personal voice on the instrument, and starting where you are. I've had some students that I've been really inspired to help, and I'm really excited for them. And so, if a player is, like kind of good with pentatonics, you can use that and take that further. You don't have to take a radically different view. You can kind of work from your own strengths, right? So if you're into pentatonic scales, now I used a bunch of pentatonic scales to work at outlining the flow of that segment of the tune, but you can really start from 5-note pentatonic scales, and you can put chromatic tones in between, right? So if I could go, right? I could put a note in between the whole steps of a pentatonic. Right. So, taking where you are and your strengths, and just building on that, because there's pretty good chances that folks probably pretty well play pretty okay, and so work with where you are, and move forward like that. So I hope everybody's enjoyed this. Sorry, it's a little frantic here today, but a little bit of playing, not with any backing tracks today, but I'll bring that back next time. And thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.